The streets are asking one question: did Finesse2Tymes just make the biggest move of the year? That's the headline taking over hip-hop pages after rumors began circulating that Finesse2Tymes had joined NBA YoungBoy's team, while Jay Prince's name was suddenly dragged into the middle of the conversation. Within hours, reaction channels, blog pages, and social media commentators were calling it a major shift in Southern rap politics, with some even claiming this move could permanently change long-standing relationships behind the scenes. The internet wasted no time connecting old interviews, previous business ties, and recent social media activity into one massive storyline. Every repost came with a different theory. Some believed this was simply a new business opportunity. Others insisted it was a direct message aimed at powerful figures already connected to the industry. Before long, fans were treating speculation as fact, and a debate spread across every major hip-hop platform. But this is where the story becomes even more complicated, because the more people searched for answers, the more different versions of the narrative started appearing. Old clips resurfaced, cryptic comments were reinterpreted, and every new post seemed to raise another question instead of providing an answer. So what really happened? And why is everyone suddenly saying this could be bad for everyone involved? Finesse2Tymes has built much of his reputation on resilience, second chances, and staying visible through constant change. After returning to the spotlight, he quickly regained momentum with successful releases, high-profile collaborations, and an active social media presence that kept fans closely following every move. Because of that visibility, almost every business decision or public appearance involving his name becomes a topic of discussion long before all the facts are available. NBA YoungBoy has followed a very different path. Despite legal challenges and long periods away from traditional promotion, he has remained one of the most streamed artists in hip-hop. His fan base is known for paying close attention to every announcement, every new signing, and every relationship surrounding his circle. When someone is rumored to be joining his team, fans immediately begin analyzing what it could mean for both the artist and the industry. That is exactly why the story spread so quickly. Once online rumors suggested that Finesse2Tymes had joined NBA YoungBoy's team, social media immediately began connecting the news to larger conversations that had already been taking place about alliances, management, and influence within Southern hip-hop. Before anyone had time to verify every detail, the internet had already built a much bigger narrative. Then another familiar name entered the discussion: Jay Prince. For decades, Jay Prince has been viewed by many fans as one of the most influential figures in rap business history. Because of that reputation, his name often appears in conversations about major industry relationships, whether or not he is directly involved in the specific situation being discussed. Once users began mentioning him alongside Finesse2Tymes and NBA YoungBoy, the discussion expanded far beyond a simple career move. Older interviews immediately resurfaced. Fans revisited past podcast appearances, social media clips, and business discussions involving all three names. Comments that originally had nothing to do with this rumor were suddenly being analyzed as possible clues. Ordinary statements about loyalty, independence, and business decisions were now being interpreted through the lens of the current online narrative. This is how viral hip-hop stories usually evolve. They begin with one report, then grow through thousands of reposts, reaction videos, and speculation until several different versions of the same story exist at the same time. Some fans viewed the rumored move as nothing more than a smart business decision between artists working in the same industry. Others believed there was a deeper meaning connected to existing relationships and influence behind the scenes. Neither side had complete public information, but both interpretations gained traction because audiences were emotionally invested in the outcome. Commentary pages helped fuel that momentum. Every live stream, podcast clip, and reaction video introduced another theory. Some creators focus on possible career opportunities that could come from working with NBA YoungBoy's camp. Others frame the rumor as a sign that larger industry dynamics might be shifting. Even without new verified developments, engagement continued to grow because each new opinion encouraged another round of debate. Before long, the conversation stopped being about one rumored move. It became a discussion about loyalty, influence, business strategy, and whether long-standing relationships inside hip-hop were changing in ways fans had not expected. And that growing uncertainty is exactly what pushed the story toward its next major turning point. The conversation exploded once several hip-hop blogs began posting that Finesse2Tymes was allegedly joining NBA YoungBoy's team, while at the same time placing Jay Prince's name directly into the headline. Within minutes, thousands of comments appeared asking the same question. Was this simply a business move, or was it being framed as a statement about relationships inside the industry? That question quickly became the center of the discussion. Instead of waiting for complete information, social media started connecting unrelated interviews, older podcast appearances, and previous business conversations into one continuous storyline. Clips recorded months apart suddenly appeared together in compilation videos, making separate moments feel like they were all part of the same developing event. Some pages focus on Finesse2Tymes, describing the rumored move as a fresh opportunity to work with one of hip-hop's biggest streaming artists. Others shifted attention toward Jay Prince, suggesting that the rumor represented a larger change in influence or alliances. However, many of those claims were interpretations rather than confirmed facts, and different creators framed the same information in completely different ways. Then the first shocking twist arrived. Viewers started noticing that many of the most viral videos claiming to show new reactions were actually built from older interviews. Short clips were edited together with dramatic music, new captions, and fast-paced narration that implied they were direct responses to the current rumor. When users searched for the original uploads, they discovered several of those interviews had been recorded long before the latest discussion even began. That discovery immediately changed the tone of the conversation. Instead of asking only whether Finesse2Tymes had joined NBA YoungBoy's team, people started questioning how much of the viral narrative had been created through editing and presentation. Some commentary channels responded by breaking down timelines. They compared upload dates, identified original interview sources, and explained how certain clips had been reproposed with completely different captions. This led many viewers to realize that context had often been removed, allowing ordinary comments about business, loyalty, or career growth to appear connected to the current rumor when they were originally discussing something else entirely. Even with those clarifications, the momentum didn't slow down. Because once a story reaches a certain level of attention, every correction becomes part of the content cycle too. Videos explaining the edit started trending alongside the edited videos themselves, creating two competing versions of the same narrative. One side argued that the rumor was being exaggerated by social media engagement. The other insisted that even if some clips were old, they still reflected larger relationships within the industry and therefore remained relevant to the discussion. As more reaction videos appeared, fans continued examining every social media post, interview appearance, and public comment involving the names connected to the rumor. Ordinary business discussions were suddenly interpreted as hidden messages. Silence was viewed as strategy. Neutral statements were treated like coded responses. This is where the conflict became much larger than the original headline. It was no longer simply about whether Finesse2Tymes was joining NBA YoungBoy's team. It became a debate over how narratives are built in modern hip-hop media, where headlines, editing, and audience interpretation can sometimes shape public perception more powerfully than verified information itself. And just when it seemed like the discussion had reached its highest point, another unexpected development pushed the story into an even more complicated direction. As the story continued gaining momentum, the discussion shifted from one rumored business move to a much broader debate about influence, loyalty, and perception within hip-hop. Every hour seemed to bring another live stream, another reaction video, or another repost claiming to have uncovered a missing piece of the puzzle. Yet despite the growing volume of content, very little new verified information actually emerged. That lack of clarity only made the speculation stronger. Major hip-hop pages began posting screenshots of social media activity, highlighting follows, unfollows, likes, and comments as though they were major developments. Fans examined every online interaction involving Finesse2Tymes, NBA YoungBoy, and Jay Prince, searching for hidden meaning in ordinary digital behavior. A simple emoji or a brief comment suddenly became the center of thousands of debates. Then the second major twist changed the conversation once again. Viewers noticed that several of the biggest reaction pages were telling completely different versions of the same story. One creator described the rumored move as a purely business-related opportunity with no connection to any larger conflict. Another insisted it represented a significant shift in industry relationships. Both videos attracted massive audiences, even though they reached opposite conclusions using many of the same public clips. This contradiction forced many fans to step back and ask an important question. Were they reacting to confirmed events, or to the way different creators were presenting those events? That realization sparked another wave of analysis. Commentary channel began comparing headlines rather than interviews. They showed how identical footage could produce completely different audience reactions depending on the title, thumbnail, and narration. Some videos emphasized opportunity and career growth. Others highlighted conflict, suggesting hidden tension where no public confirmation existed. The more viewers compared the coverage, the more obvious the pattern became. The story itself had started evolving through repetition rather than through new developments. At the same time, older interviews featuring discussions about independence, business decisions, and industry relationships resurfaced once again. Although those conversations were originally about broader topics, many users began interpreting them through the lens of the current rumor. Statements that once seemed ordinary now appeared significant simply because audiences were viewing them with a different expectation. This created two completely different camps online. One group argued that the rumored move represented nothing more than an artist making a career decision, while social media exaggerated its meaning. The other believed the timing, the conversations, and the public speculation hinted at deeper industry dynamics that simply hadn't been addressed openly. Without a clear public statement resolving every question, neither perspective completely disappeared. Instead, the uncertainty became the story. Every repost generated another reaction. Every reaction inspired another theory. And every theory encouraged people to revisit old content looking for clues that might support their preferred interpretation. By this stage, the original headline had almost become secondary. The real conversation was now about how quickly online narratives can grow beyond the information that first created them. And just when it seemed like the debate couldn't become any more divided, the public reaction itself became the biggest headline of all. As the story dominated hip-hop conversations, the reaction across social media became just as important as the rumor itself. Instead of one clear public opinion, several competing narratives emerged at the same time. Every platform seemed to have its own version of the situation, and every community believed it had uncovered the missing piece that everyone else had overlooked. On X, fans immediately split into different groups. One side argued that Finesse2Tymes was simply making the best business decision for his career, and that every successful artist has a right to work with whoever offers the best opportunity. Another group believed the timing of the rumor raised legitimate questions about relationships and loyalty within the industry, even though many of the claims being discussed remain unverified. Instagram pages intensified the conversation by posting dramatic graphics alongside short video clips. Captions often suggested major developments while linking together interviews, live stream moments, and older statements that were never originally connected. Those posts generated thousands of comments within hours, with users debating whether the headlines reflected reality or simply encouraged more engagement. Over on YouTube, Reaction Channel produced lengthy breakdowns from every possible angle. Some creators carefully separated confirmed information from online speculation, reminding viewers that many viral claims were based on interpretation rather than official announcements. Others focused more on the emotional side of the story, discussing how fans perceived loyalty, influence, and changing alliances within hip-hop culture. Reddit communities approached the topic differently. Users began creating detailed timelines, comparing upload dates, identifying original interview sources, and distinguishing between current developments and resurfaced content. While many appreciated the effort to organize a discussion, disagreements still continued because people interpreted the same information in different ways depending on what they believed the biggest story actually was. Meanwhile, fan communities surrounding both Finesse2Tymes and NBA YoungBoy defended their favorite artists passionately. Supporters emphasized that career decisions should not automatically be viewed as personal conflict, while others insisted that major business moves naturally attract speculation because audiences often see deeper meaning in them. Jay Prince's name also remained a central part of the discussion. Because of his long-standing reputation within the music business, many viewers assumed any headline mentioning him must indicate something significant. However, others reminded audiences that influential names are often included in viral discussions simply because they attract attention, even when their direct involvement has not been publicly confirmed. As days passed, frustration began replacing excitement for many observers. Some users expressed concern that social media now rewards the fastest interpretation rather than the most accurate information. Others pointed out that repeated reposts of the same interviews, combined with dramatic captions, had created the impression of constant new developments even when very little had actually changed. That realization became the emotional center of the fallout. The debate was no longer only about Finesse2Tymes, NBA YoungBoy, or J Prince. It became a larger conversation about how quickly public opinion forms in the digital era, how easily context can be lost through editing, and how powerful headlines can become once audiences begin filling gaps with their own interpretations. And despite countless reaction videos, live streams, and social media threads, one major question still remained unanswered. What happens when the internet becomes more invested in the narrative than in waiting for verified answers? Just when it seemed the conversation had finally reached its peak, another unexpected shift changed the way people view the entire situation. Instead of producing a definitive answer, the latest wave of discussion highlighted something far more revealing. The biggest battle wasn't happening between the people named in the headlines. It was happening between competing versions of the same story. Fans who revisited the earliest posts noticed how dramatically the narrative had evolved in only a short period of time. The first uploads focused mainly on the rumors surrounding Finesse2Tymes and NBA YoungBoy. Later posts placed increasing emphasis on J Prince, even though many of those connections came from interpretation rather than newly confirmed developments. With every repost, the headline became bigger while the original details became less clear. That became the final twist. People realized they were no longer following one continuous event. They were following dozens of separate pieces of content that had gradually been woven together into a single dramatic storyline. Reaction channels began comparing early headlines with later ones, showing how wording alone had transformed public perception. Phrases suggesting possibilities slowly evolved into captions that sounded increasingly certain, despite the lack of corresponding verified updates. As those versions spread, many viewers accepted the newer framing without ever seeing where the story originally began. At the same time, older interviews continued resurfacing. Comments about loyalty, business strategy, and independence, recorded long before the current discussion, were repeatedly presented alongside the rumor, encouraging audiences to connect ideas that had never been publicly linked. Some viewers believed those interviews still offered useful insight into the personalities involved. Others argued that removing context created more confusion than clarity. The debate quickly shifted again. Instead of asking what happened, people began asking why the story had changed so much from one platform to another. Some blamed social media algorithms that reward engagement above all else. Others pointed to the growing competition among commentary pages, where dramatic titles and emotional storytelling often attract more attention than cautious reporting. Whatever the reason, one fact became difficult to ignore. The conversation had grown far beyond the information that originally started it. By now, every new upload, live stream, and reaction video wasn't just reporting on the story. It was actively shaping the next version of it. And that leaves one final question hanging over the entire discussion. If another interview surfaces tomorrow, if another screenshot begins trending, or if one new public statement changes the direction of the conversation, will it finally answer the questions everyone has been asking? Or will it simply create another chapter in a story that the internet keeps rewriting with every passing day? Because in today's hip-hop world, sometimes the biggest headline isn't the event itself. It's the race to define what the event means before the full picture is ever known. After looking at everything that has circulated online, one thing is clear. This conversation has become about much more than Finesse2Tymes, NBA YoungBoy, or J Prince. It has turned into another example of how quickly HipHopNews can evolve once social media, reaction channels, and fan communities all begin adding their own interpretations to the same developing story. Some people believe the rumored move represents nothing more than an artist exploring new opportunities. Others think the timing, the public discussion, and the attention surrounding certain names point to larger industry dynamics. Without complete verified information addressing every claim, different audiences continue reaching different conclusions based on the same public material. That's why your opinion matters. After watching this entire breakdown, what do you think? Do you believe this is simply a business decision that the internet has turned into a much bigger narrative? Or do you think there are deeper industry relationships and behind-the-scenes developments that haven't been fully explained publicly? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell everyone which side you're on, and most importantly, explain why. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because we'll continue following verified updates as they become available and separate confirmed information from online speculation. Until then, remember this. In today's hip-hop world, stories don't just spread because of what happens. They spread because every repost, every reaction video, and every headline adds another layer to the conversation. And sometimes, the biggest mystery isn't what happened. It's which version of the story people choose to believe.